All right, let's see what happens tonight. Welcome, everybody. I know y'all coming in, or you catch this later on. Welcome in. Hopefully, we're going to have some guys on panel tonight. I sent a bunch of invitations out, so see what happens. Oh, there he is. There's one of them. There's the invite. Okay. Waiting on some more people to get up in here. The invite is in the chat room, dude. All you gotta do is hit it, follow the link, you'll get in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mr. Bruce. Foul
Hey,
play.
Man, how's it going, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Not much. What you know?
Getting ready, dude. Just getting ready. I went out and hey, Jeff. Went out and cranked my motor up yesterday.
Yeah.
Hey, Craig. And I couldn't keep it running. You got one more coming in. Hang on 1 second. Look at there. Look at there. We got rewind in the house.
What's going on?
Jonathan, Bruce, Jonathan, in case y'all have never met before.
Nice to meet you, Bruce.
Nice to meet you.
The bubble won't stay primed, so I'm going to have to replace the bubble. The problem is on my Go Devil, I run a 1/4 inch hose from the gas tank to the engine. It is a 1/4 inch black fuel line because that is what you're supposed to run. And trying to find a 1/4 inch bubble is sometimes gets to be aggravating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because most motors are 3/4. So I gotta find a 1/4 inch bubble. Mark, how's it going? Nets blog, how you doing? I ain't seen you in a long time. Oh, Gordon is in the house. I've got both the Calders in here. Craig and his brother Gordon. Billy is supposed to be in here sometime. Hey, Charles. Billy might be coming in. I've invited Chris as well from Duckalope to come in. And hey, guys, we're gonna have us a little party. Talk about our, here on the East Coast, our teal season is starting this week, somewhere this week. So I know for us, it's starting Friday in South Carolina. I think North Carolina, y'all start.
Yeah, I think ours starts. I'm in North Carolina. Ours starts Wednesday.
Wednesday.
The 13th. So Wednesday. Yeah. But ours is only the easternmost part of the state. Highway 17 runs up north to south, and you have to be east of Highway 17. And I'm not going to go. I called my buddy Tom, whose son lives out there, and I said, "Hey, you guys going to do it this year?" And he's like, "No, he said, we scouted it last year and saw about a dozen rattlesnakes, and the mosquitoes wanted to carry us off, and it was hot." And I said, basically, you're just repeating all the reasons that I give that I don't go teal hunting in September. So I will I will be foregoing it. I may go out there and do a little fishing on Wednesday, though.
Yeah. How about you, Jonathan? You gonna hunt this weekend?
So no, I'm not gonna hunt local. I'm supposed to be heading out to Louisiana pretty soon.
Oh.
So
Okay.
I'm gonna go do that there.
Where are you
I got
located,
you.
Jonathan?
I'm in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I was not gonna hunt. However, I got a phone call and the boy said they're here. Get ready.
There you
And
go.
that's why I went out and cranked my boat up yesterday and found out that it won't stay cranked. So I've got to get it fixed up this week quick.
It might not be the bulb. You might have if it won't hold a prime, you could have the fuel line from the bulb to the tank.
It could have a slide hole in it. Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna start at the bulb, and then if it's the fuel line, then replace all the fuel line.
Fun times.
And now if my buddy shows up in here, I got a buddy of mine that lives right around the corner from me, and I may get that boat over to him real quick, and me and him will go through it one afternoon when we get off work.
Oh, excuse me.
Let's see here. We got cooking in the house. Mark J's here. Jeff's here. Swamp Rat, what's going on, man? How you doing? Swamp Rat says Teal opens here Saturday, and the torque converter on my truck broke. Good
Must
Lord.
be a Chevrolet.
Gotta be. I own one. That's why I know.
I don't think I've ever had a torque converter break.
That's that what is it? The old Z71s. What's that transmission? I can't even remember it now.
I've got an 8-speed in my GMC, and I wouldn't give you $5 for it. Oh, the old turbo 350s, God, they haven't put those in trucks since the early 90s.
Yeah, there's another one. It's like in the late 90s models. Z71s.
Would have been either a 700 R4 or a 4L60E, which is the
4L60E. That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Version, yeah.
Y'all talking Greek to me. I can drive. I can drive them, but I don't know how to work on them.
Buy a car that's as old as you, Matt. You'll learn real quick.
Hey, Amanda, how you doing? So, Bruce, you're not going because don't have a place to hunt.
There's public land that I could go to, but like I said, it's infested with mosquitoes and rattlesnakes. So, and I had a bad experience. I've had multiple, but I had a very bad experience public land hunting during youth season last year where people were threatening to shoot at us. Oh, so Lord. I may be done doing at least just your general walk-in. We'll put in for blinds where everybody has to stay in their location, but I'm probably not walking into public land in North Carolina anymore.
And Jonathan, when you going to Louisiana?
I'm trying to sneak out there this weekend.
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Yes, sir. We'll see how it works out. But I'm more ready for Big Duck to open up and us to hit the road out that way. It's hard to get excited for duck season when you're not shivering.
That's the truth, man. I agree completely.
I mean, it's easy to get excited, but it's hard to wake up in the morning and do it.
Yeah, we hunted it would have been about mid-November last year, and it was so hot. We had put on off to keep the mosquitoes off of us. I was in a T-shirt, and I took my pants off under my waders.
Yep.
It was, and then I had like a base layer on, I walked back to the truck. Took my waders off and walked back to the truck in my base layer. Because it was shot ducks though, so I guess it wasn't all bad.
I like the early teal season. I mean, I really do because I love hunting blue wings.
I would
We
love to
just
shoot a blue wing.
they're just not. We just don't have a concentration of them locally, or it's a hit and miss. I mean, and unless hunting around locally where I'm at, unless you're hunting every day and can try to start patterning or looking for ducks every day,
Right.
it's hard to pull it off on a weekend. I mean, it really is. You may get lucky, or because about Bruce, you don't have this problem, but me and Jonathan do. For early teal here, we have to wait till legal sunrise before we
Oh, and
can shoot.
so you can tell the difference between a
And
teal and a wood duck. Oh, I got a cramp. Oh God, that hurts. Sorry.
Landon saying early teal is here.
Yes, it is.
So we have to wait to sunrise. And I was going to talk about that a little bit tonight and get y'all's thoughts on some things. But and so while we're at it, now Jonathan, I know you'll probably have something to say. Being from South Carolina, I know some of the people are in the chat. I know of at least 2 or 3 right now are from South Carolina. Our youth, especially on the East Coast, and I would say from North Carolina on down, even though North Carolina has some great duck hunting in it, but I would start at North Carolina and work our way down. We don't get the ducks like they do, of course, in the Mississippi and Central Flyways. And here in South Carolina, we got to wait to sunrise in order to shoot early teal because they get it confused with teal and wood ducks.
Mm-hmm.
And I want your thoughts on the youth not being able to identify ducks on the wing because of the lack of birds. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Do you mean like they don't see enough birds to build that skill?
To build a skill, to build a calling skill, setup skills, just to build duck hunting, period.
Sure. Makes it tough.
And because, I mean, yeah, you do see some shenanigans other places, and I mean, you're always going to see that. But I think we see more of it here, in especially in the Southeast, because of the lack of birds. They didn't have them. I mean, you're looking at a couple of generations that have not. My generation, we had birds. We had all kind of ducks. We had ducks everywhere.
Yeah.
You couldn't drive down the road without having a pond filled up with ducks. But they don't have the birds here. So their skills, their how to identify on the wing, shooting, distance. I mean, what are y'all's thoughts on that as far as the youth of the day and our lack of ducks? And Bruce, I'll start with you.
Well, the teal season is different, right? Because you can only shoot one species of duck, and you're right. After you've seen enough of them come in, you can tell the difference between a teal and a wood duck. The size is different. They both dive bomb you, so that is a little bit of a different issue. One option for that is they can open it for wood ducks. It makes it a shorter season. But Kentucky and Florida, and I think maybe Tennessee, all allow you to shoot wood ducks during the teal season. But it cuts it in half. So that would fix that problem for teal season. As far as what to do in the regular season, I actually heard something on a podcast, and I wish I could remember whose it was. It was a couple of years ago. Guys were talking kind of about a similar topic, and like last year, we could only shoot 2 mallards. It's back to 4 now, but you can only shoot 2 mallards. Now you can shoot 4, but only 2 can be hens. Well, it's hard, especially if you're hunting in flooded timber. It's hard to tell the difference between anything when it's right at legal shooting time and it's dark. So what this guy did was, or his approach was, all right, think about what I can and cannot shoot. Like, let's say it was last year with only 2 mallards and only 1 could be a hen. I'm only going to shoot 1 duck. if a bunch of ducks come into my decoys. That way I know I won't shoot 2 hens if I only shoot 1 duck. It takes some willpower. And then, he just has to be, dead nut certain the next duck he shoots that it's not a hen mallard. We kind of have the same problem. We can't shoot black ducks until mid-November, and we get them here. I saw them last season, right? First light, I will, even in good light, and I've heard other people kind of scoff at it, or how people get judgy, right? First light, you can't tell the difference between a black duck and a hen mallard coming to your decoys at first light. I don't believe anybody that tells me in flooded timber in the dark they can tell the difference. And I don't want to make anybody angry with that, but I find it hard to believe. I know people that can't tell them apart when they're in their hand, right? So obviously, in flight, it would make it very impossible. So I don't know. I don't think there's a good solution for it. It's part of the game. If you're afraid you're going to shoot the wrong thing, we all learn the 10 rules of gun safety. Be certain of your target. If you can't 100% positively identify what you're shooting at, don't shoot. That's tough.
Yeah, so just speaking on being able to identify off the wing, outside of teal season in general, Matt, you said we used to have the birds, but there's one other thing I feel like you used to have that we don't have, especially on the East Coast today, and that's the veteran out there on the water with them. So not only are they getting the experience with seeing the birds themselves, just experience what the different flights look like, what the different birds look like, because truth be told, I know grown men in South Carolina that have been hunting for years and still don't know the difference between a ringneck and a bluebill.
Right.
And that's just how it goes. But again, especially on the East Coast, what we don't have anymore is that kind of old head out in the woods or out in the water with them. And that's where a lot of this education comes from. We have information readily at our fingertips right now, and these guys grew up on the internet, but they're not out there searching for what the difference between a bluebill and a ringneck is. They're more so trying to just get to a point where they could see the birds, and that's the kind of information they're going to absorb. And on the backside of that, it would be a good idea to open up here, especially that kind of early wood duck with the teal like they have in Florida. The only downside or caveat I have to that is when the bulk of your bag is going to be a wood duck as well, you want to keep that pressure off of them until as late as possible. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the reason that we don't open the wood duck up here early teal anymore. I think DNR, all the problems they have, and as much griping as I can do about them, I think they recognize that's our primary duck anymore, and we need to keep those out of the bag until as late as possible. And that's just to ensure that hunters can have any kind of success throughout the rest of the season.
Right. Now, there's a guy in the chat room. He's a really good friend of mine. He just texted me, said he's trying to figure out how to comment in the chat room, but he's a veteran hunter. Me and him, I'm going to talk about me and him for a minute. We grew up with veteran hunters. We grew up, his dad was a duck hunter. My dad was a duck hunter. My dad and his dad hunted together. So we grew up seeing all these ducks. We grew up being able to identify before we shot. Because we would go out, they would take us out there when we were little, and they put a gun in our hands, but wouldn't let us shoot until we could readily identify what we were shooting at. So, I'm just wondering, I'm also torn between having an early wood duck season in South Carolina and in North Carolina as well, because of the bulk of our birds are going to be wood ducks. But those are going to be residential birds. And if we get a flight, we're going to, because around December 15th, around December 20th, you're going to start seeing, at least in South Carolina, is generally, and I'm just saying generally, is when you're going to see the bulk of migratory wood ducks coming in. So would it really matter as much to have a wood duck season. Kentucky, even though they're allowed 3 wood ducks during the regular season, they're only allowed 2 wood ducks during the their early teal season. And I believe if Billy was here, yeah, Billy's here. Billy, I'm putting an invite in there for you. And Billy could probably answer this a lot better than I can. But hang on, I can't do 3 things at once. But I think in Florida they only have 2 wood ducks, if I'm not mistaken. Billy, if I'm wrong, please get up here and correct me. But I know in Kentucky, I went to Kentucky for their early teal, early wood ducks. We didn't see the first teal, and all we shot were 2 wood ducks apiece and called it a day.
When I was a kid, I didn't know there was a teal season. I grew up in Kentucky. We called it wood duck season because that's all we saw, right? So,
right. So, would it be that detrimental? Because our we're going to keep some resident birds here past December, but we're gonna see a lot of migrants come in.
Yeah.
Which are going to be bigger. They're just bigger ducks. When they do come in, you can literally tell the difference between them. So I'm just kind of, I wish they would. Number one, and for my opinion, that'll put more hunters in the field. Okay, which generates more money, which economically, the stores, the gas stations, whatever. Let's face facts. If you got to wait till sunrise, the majority of your teal are already gone. They've come and gone. Rainbow teal lives matter. Oh Lord. They come and gone. I mean, I've had teal in my decoys right at 30 minutes before shooting time, which is legal sunrise. And they'll stay 5 or 10 minutes and they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Where had I been able to, I could have shot them. So I'm thinking about putting more hunters in the field, putting an added bird in there. So if you do have a quote unquote mess up, it's legal.
Have you ever done much in the early season teal? Have you ever done much hunting in the afternoons or in the evenings?
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like you do better in the evenings or in the mornings for the teal?
I do better in the mornings.
Because what I've found,
I've always done better in the mornings.
What I found is those same kind of mornings that those teal get there really early before shooting light, I tend to have a better hunt in the evenings.
I'll tell you what I have done in the past 5 or 6 years is I'm done. I don't do all day hunts anymore. I do an all day hunt on the last day of the season. But after that, I self-impose a restriction that I don't hunt in the afternoons. And it's just a self-imposed
marital bliss.
Do what?
I said to enhance the marital bliss.
Right. Well, not only that, but
keep that honeymoon period going a little bit longer.
I mean, that's just self-imposed for me.
Right.
That I don't hunt in the afternoons. I will hunt all day on the last day just because, I want to say that I started it and I ended it,
Yeah. Jeff Barris made a comment, and I've actually heard of this before, so I appreciate Jeff for reminding me of it. But he says Nebraska and South Dakota are having a two-tier system. Tier 1 is the typical 6 duck limit with different species and that. And the tier 2 is kind of I think, Matt, designed to address your question. It's only 3 ducks, but it's any duck. You don't have to differentiate. and I think it's pretty new. I heard about it a year or two ago. It's kind of a I think it's a good idea, Jeff. I think it's because it serves exactly that purpose to help that young hunter overcome that. And let's you know, Delta Waterfowl does a lot of the 3 R's: the recruitment, retention, and reactivation. You can recruit 12-year-old all you want, but if he gets hooked, he still needs an adult to take him out hunting, right? So recruiting adult new hunters is important as well. But for that adult new hunter, so let's not just say young hunters. Let's say new hunters, new duck hunters. You might be 35 years old and new to duck hunting. You get that tier 2 license, and now the pressure is off of you to have to identify that duck when it's coming in. If it's a duck, shoot it, right? Your license, you'll only get 3, but goodness gracious, I can't remember the last time I shot 3 ducks in a day in North Carolina. But I think that's a great system. It'd be interesting to see how that pans out for them if it's met with favorable results. I don't think it's going to have a big impact on the duck numbers. Keep in mind, duck hunters only make up about 5% of annual duck mortality anyway. Right. Most ducks are dying from some other reason, right? But I think it's a wonderful idea because now, I wonder how many people don't go duck hunting because they're afraid they will shoot the wrong duck, right? Or it turns them off. It's a barrier, right? So I think that tier system is great.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the old point system they used to operate on back in the day. Yeah,
which we gamed mercilessly. You never ever shot a hen mallard first. That was always the last duck you shot.
Yeah,
and that's why they knew people were doing that. It was terrible to enforce, but yeah, I mean that's the same kind of thing. If you did it right, if you ran out of points, you shoot a hen mallard. Well, I get one more duck and I'm done.
I hunted in Texas when it was a point system, and pintail drakes were 10 points. You were allowed 100 points. Their pintail hens were 90, and for 3 days we shot nothing but pintail drakes and limited every day. So
wow.
Yeah.
When was that? Was that early 80s?
Yeah. Yeah. It was before I went in the Marine Corps. So I went in the Marine Corps in 84. So it had been 82, 83.
God, I think I saw a pintail once when I was in Kentucky.
So, what do you, Bruce? This question's for you. Teal season is east of is it I-95 or 17? I can never remember.
Highway 17.
Highway 17. What about you do not have a statewide teal season, and what do you think about it if it opened up statewide
for teal?
Yeah.
I think the impact would be very, very minimal. I don't see much teal this far west. We've shot them on Jordan Lake, which is, if you guys aren't familiar with the area, it's just west of Raleigh. We shot teal there. We have shot teal there before. I've seen them where I hunt, which is east of Raleigh, just barely east of Raleigh. And several years ago, I was in a club just slightly northeast of me. So still it was west of I-95. And I saw blue-winged teals in there last weekend of September.
Right.
Which that's back when our very first big duck season started, the first weekend of October. So I was scouting.
Because I asked this question, even though I'm not going to tell anybody on here where I hunt, I have seen early teal. I have seen blue-winged teal on lake systems in western North Carolina. I've seen them.
I mean, they may be there. I'm not ever looking for them, right?
I've got friends who have seen them, and I'm not talking about one or two. I'm talking about hundreds, and they're here. I mean, they're there. I mean, it's not like it's every day. It's not like it's all but they're there. Would you support what I'm asking? Would you support a statewide statewide on early teal.
Sure,
statewide.
I would support it even stronger if it included wood ducks. Maybe they don't do it because teal numbers are fewer this far west, and they're afraid people will just shoot a bunch of wood ducks. But yeah, but what do I know? I'm not a biologist, right? I've grown more and more hesitant to make those kinds of judgment calls as I listen to a lot of duck hunting podcasts, and as I listen to more and more waterfowl biologists talk about stuff, I realize I don't know squat. I know what they tell me. So it's just my opinion. I wouldn't have a problem against it. I guess, like I've said before, I'd want to hear what the biologist has to tell me.
Right.
But I don't see how it would have a huge impact.
I think an early wood duck season up for you guys in North Carolina is probably a little more accepting than here in South Carolina. It might not be, massive, but you guys do see considerably more birds than we see, and variable in species. Your bags can vary a great deal compared to us still here in South Carolina. So I think a wood duck season up for you guys absolutely makes sense. And if anything, that would help the southern flyway hunters out, us South Carolina, Georgia guys, even a little bit more if that was an early season for you guys.
Yeah, we do definitely get, especially on the coast. I've seen a six duck limit from right on the coast. And I don't think it had a single mallard or a wood duck in it. There might have been a hen mallard in there. I know it's been several years ago, but yeah, there was just about everything else in the sky, and there were pintails in, and unfortunately somebody couldn't shoot straight. There were no pintails in the bag, but
we always got those guys in the group.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're us too, but we won't talk about
that.
Brian, I'd be curious to see where at in North Carolina your friend is only seeing woodies, because they might be harder to find and you might have to put the work in to find them, but there's birds in North Carolina, my friend.
We're shooting mallards in October.
Oh yeah.
We did it last year.
There's places around here, in the Raleigh area, or if you're hunting mainly creeks, Fayetteville. I haven't hunted Fayetteville, but I've hunted. There's a big near Turkey, North Carolina, which is kind of that way. We shot just about everything down there. But if you're hunting it, I know there's a bunch of creeks and swamps and stuff down there. So I can certainly see how that would be pretty heavy wood duck habitat and not as much other. So where I saw a bunch of other ducks was a 60-acre impoundment with corn and all kinds of other good stuff in it.
Well, dadgum, Keith, you live in Utah.
No, he's killing.
That's why he's killing wood duck.
Yeah, he's killing widgeon and teal every day.
But yeah, like I said, I'm kind of torn on the early wood duck season here. Economically, I could see it. Killing more wood ducks is, because we are primarily a wood duck state now. Unless you're in an impoundment, which is going to have a variety of ducks in it. But I think, there's not that many teal hunters anyway, except on the coast. The more inland you go, the lesser of the teal hunters you get, although you do get some. I just think putting a 2 duck limit like they do in Kentucky, like they do in Billy posted up that they do it in Florida. I just think it'll enhance the more hunters, because more hunters will come out. And we honestly, it's a, you don't want too many hunters, but you need some. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You need something.
I know everybody, and I've been in the middle of it and hated it as well, that especially around here, there's a lot of pressure. Even though, people say, I don't want to do anything for more duck hunters. Well, I hope you don't really want to keep duck hunting, because there's already less than 1 million of us if you look at duck stamp sales. right? There's less than 1 million of us in the country. That is politically irrelevant. All it takes is a small handful of, I think Australia, if you guys follow the Ramsey Russells, Get Ducks or Duck Season Somewhere podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know the status, but they were about to and maybe already have completely outlawed duck hunting in Australia because the anti-hunters came after it and there wasn't enough of them to push back. So I think more hunters, all of us should try to do something to increase the number of hunters or encourage people or what, because I get it that it's crowded at public land, but if there's more of us, maybe there'll be more public land one of these days.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is the best thing we can do is take someone hunting, and that can be a brand new hunter, or speaking to your triple R, your reactivation, just taking somebody who maybe hasn't gone in a while because it's not as good, right? Yeah, and just a lot of the whole I don't hunt anymore is because of the bird numbers. But I mean, if you take somebody out there and show them a good time, it's still another reason to go out there and still hunt. But the best thing we can do is just to educate as much as we can anybody that we come across. And I mean, I'm sure that's what everybody's trying to do with these platforms we're building. But yeah, and it's it's a very toxic, in my opinion, kind of position, especially these guys in Northeast Arkansas are taking right now. They don't want any more pictures or cameras in the duck woods. They want it to be quiet, but that's just greedy. That's greed is all that is. And if we want to keep living the way we live and appreciating the recreation we share in the outdoors, then we've got to have more hunters. We just got to.
Yeah. Well, that's you made a comment, taking people hunting, and I'm all for that. Opening day of the goose season, Craig, who's in here, I went hunting with him, and we took a new hunter out. Now, we didn't kill any geese. We had a good time. We just didn't see any geese to call to or even to kill. But therein itself lies the problem. Here in the Southeast, we don't have enough ducks that would keep a new hunter interested. Oh, he may love it, the camaraderie, the biscuit cooking, the boat ride, all that stuff. But if he's not killing anything or having the opportunity, why do they want to keep hunting? And that all goes back to state management and the practices of DNR and a lot of other things, and facing facts. Private landowners is why we have ducks right now.
Yep,
is because of private landowners who know how to manage their property. Bruce, you're one of them. Jonathan, I mean, I know you got some property or you're affiliated with property. And you know how to manage that stuff. And the public duck hunter who doesn't know how, I mean, they may know how to manage it, but they can't because of the rule on public water.
And Jonathan's comment earlier about there not being mentors. I don't know how many times here recently, in the last several years, I've gone out and there have been young guys. Heck, some of them are my friends, right? I mean, I have a core group of 3 buddies, and they all started duck hunting within the last 5 or 6 years, right? So I'm effectively kind of their mentor, right? I've arranged some trips for us and share what I know with them. But how many young guys that I see out there, and that's why you have things like Skybusters. Like I've been thinking about doing a video, one of the videos where I shot some ducks last season, and I've noticed this, and I've criticized other duck hunting videos. I'm like, my God, those ducks are 100 yards away. Why are you shooting at them? Until I saw what my footage looked like, and I was like, my God, that duck looks 100 yards away, right? And it was like maybe 30 yards away, right? So I've thought about doing something to help people judge how far away. Like, let's say there's anybody here that hunts Jordan Lake around North Carolina. If you're out in that swamp and up on the bank are all the pine trees, those pine trees are 35, 40 yards tall. If you're down in the swamp and a duck flies over those trees, he's probably too far away, right? So that's one of the things people, where we don't have, identifying the ducks, how to set up, knowing when to take a good shot. Some of my buddies, they're not here tonight. Sometimes they, take some shots that I wouldn't take. But yeah, that's the thing too. So yeah, if anybody here knows someone that can be interested, those videos also, when I think Jonathan was talking earlier, they set such, or maybe it's you when you're talking about how to keep new hunters interested. They set such unrealistic expectations. I would love to be Rusty Creasy in the Coca-Cola woods, picking and choosing which duck that I'm going to shoot when 100 come in the trees.
And having Freddie King behind the camera going, no, don't shoot them. You shoot these over here.
Right, right. No, I know that one. Don't shoot him, but I don't like that guy.
I don't like that one over there. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You made a comment about doing a video, and I actually did one where I took a large helium balloon that I got
you told me about
that. Dollar General. And I put 35 yards of monofilament line on it on the end of a fishing rod, and I set her free. And I zoomed out with a regular camera, not a GoPro, but my little Sony Handycam. And that thing looked like it was 6 miles away.
I know.
And it was just 35 yards. And this is a big balloon, which is going to be way bigger than a mallard duck. And because there's no backdrop. So these types of videos we need to be putting out as duck hunting content creators and putting out more. I mean, I put out one years ago. Maybe we need to do an updated one, a more, just an update one.
Right.
But they don't understand yardage. A lot of guys don't understand yardage. And you have this, and I'm guilty of this as much as the next person, because y'all know, if you've watched my videos, I test ammo. And I'm making a 70-yard shot on paper now with TSS. Now, I would never try that in a hunting situation. I wanted to see what it would do, and it did well. It did real well. Salt Creek Custom Ammo's, 70 yards, improved cylinder.
Yeah.
Plastered that target. But so I'm guilty of that. There are other content creators out there who are were constant. I haven't seen anything lately about making 70, 80-yard shots on ducks. Those guys are just as guilty, of misinforming the. I try to keep all my shots within 35 yards, especially on decoying ducks. 40 yards is my max. But 35 inside, 35 and inside, that's what I'm after. But people are making these 70, 80-yard shots on video.
Yeah.
And boasting about it.
Yeah.
So these kids are going out there and they're grabbing.
Thinking they can do it too
with some double BB Winchester Expert shells, which I'm not saying they're bad shells, but let's face facts. They're not.
But they are.
Not TSS. Just in case Winchester ever decided they wanted to,
pop in,
which they never will.
I bet they would tell you don't take a 70-yard shot with that stuff too.
But what I'm getting at is they're banging away 25 shells daily, because they're cheap shells. I mean, they're relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, and so Salt Creek said it's not sky busting when your animal's capable of killing clean kills that far. Just your opinion. Yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I think it's a cultural thing, right? We need duck hunting isn't all pass shots at 50 and 60 yards, even if it's with lead or TSS. Duck hunting is about the entire process. It's about knowing your prey, knowing where they want to be, and how can you convince them to land where they already want to be, or if you're not exactly on the X, what can you do to get them there and pull them off of where they really want to be. And that's what hunting is. So it's not just pass shots, that's shooting. You want to hunt these birds. You want to outsmart them. You want to put the work in to do everything. And that's where the culture has kind of changed and led the youth to the dark side, if I may. It's not duck hunting making those pass shots. And there's always situations, right? You're trying to clean up your limit and you've got a few birds left. Maybe you're going to just take the pass shots as you can get them, but that's not duck hunting. Duck hunting is ducks of any species, feet down in your decoys, backpedaling, and you work in the jerk rig. Your decoy spread looks right. You're blowing the call the best you can because you practice. All of the above, putting the work in, and ultimately, I think that's what it comes down to: is people are scared to put the work in, and that's And the backside of it, making those, the realism of those 50 to 70 yard shots. It takes a good shot, whether it's your first time or your 100th time duck hunting, to make those shots. And so what else does that do to these new hunters that can't make those shots that they're thinking are 100% hittable, and they're seeing these guys on YouTube make these shots, but they can't do it? That's a deterrent in itself to get back out there.
And it's not just, I know, sorry, I apologize. I Matt, what's the Salt Creek Custom Ammunition's name?
Keith.
So Keith, there's ammo being able to make the shot and the person being able to make the shot. I used to be a member of a clay target club here in the county that I live in, and we shot 5-stand clay. So you're right next to 4 other shooters, and we had some guys that could shoot the lights out. But I saw a lot of guys shoot, and a number 8 will break a clay target at 50 yards, but not every guy that stepped up there could make that shot, right? So I think that's kind of more what we're talking about. Jonathan, I agree with you completely about the style of hunting. I had to go through a mind shift when I started in North Carolina, when it became a lot of pass shooting wood ducks. I grew up, I never shot at a duck unless his feet were down over my decoys, right? That's just not the kind of hunting we did. There's a big difference between having the equipment that can make a 50-yard shot, but like my dad says, it ain't the arrow, it's the Indian. And that's where again, back to the mentorship and not even just putting in time, but not having time to go. Learning to shoot a shotgun takes time. It's some people, we've all probably known that guy. My dad had a buddy. He was the same with golf. He was just kind of naturally gifted with that. And only time he picked up a gun was, during dove season and maybe once or twice during duck season, and he hardly ever missed. But he was just that guy, right? I'm not that guy. So I think that's where a lot of it comes down to as well. And on those videos, sorry, Matt, just to finish my thought. On those videos, you have guys that can make the shot. They're shooting tungsten through a full choke and have the ability to kill a duck stone dead at 60 yards. And then some kid who just got his first shotgun and a box of, number 2 Winchester Express or whatever, thinks he can do the same thing. And he goes out there and blows through a box of shells, never touches the feather. As far as he knows, maybe a duck goes 500 yards and that one pellet that got him kills him. But, that's part of it as well.
I grew up the same way, where we shot ducks feet down growing up, and I had to change. And there's all types of duck hunting. So, we could spend 2 days on this topic. You have your mallard purists who are going to be shooting nothing but mallards. And within that realm of the mallard purist, you have timber hunters only. You have marsh hunters only. You have dry field hunters only. Okay. But we have other types of duck hunting. We do have pass shooters, guys that come out and that's all they do is they pass shoot. And it could be any duck, actually. It could be mallards, gadwall, widgeon, teal. It doesn't matter. It's just a pass shooting. The area they're in, they have no choice but to pass shoot. You have others who are layout hunters. So they're in a layout boat hunting for divers or in curtain blinds. That's all they've ever known. So you have a wide variety of different style jump shooters, for example, guys who stalk ducks on the water. which I'm laughing about it because I'm too fat to be doing all that kind of stuff. But to actually stalk ducks on the water, jump them up, and shoot. So you have different styles of hunting, which requires different techniques as far as their shooting ability. And I know what that TSS will do. I know what bismuth will do. I know what lead will do. I know what steel won't do. And with all that said, it is, and I guess what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to get to is it is our responsibility as content creators to impress on these younger hunters. Hey, listen, hone your skills. If you're going to hone them through a duck call, if you're going to hone your skills in decoy placement, if you're going to hone your skills in boat driving, hone your skills on the range. Because you're 100% right. A number 8 will break a clay at 50 yards. We've all done it. We've all had that extreme long shot that we've killed a bird, whether it be a dove or a quail or a duck or a goose. We've all had that experience. But is it consistent enough to do it each and every time? You have some guys, like you said, been at skeet and trap ranges. We got one right down the street. This guy's a retired Marine gunnery sergeant. He'll knock the eyes off of a gnat at 1,000 yards with his shotgun, but he has honed his skill.
Yep.
He knows what he can do. And a lot of these kids, are not. They don't. And I'm not saying all the kids. I'm just saying there's a lot of them out there that don't have that skill set, and they really need to hone that in.
Yep, that's true. It all comes back to that not having a mentor, right?
Right.
My wife needs me. I'll be right back.
Yeah, Salt Creek. I know a lot of everything, especially on the Salt Lake. That's really the only part of Utah I'm familiar with. I know a lot of that shooting is pass shooting. I know you guys got a lot of marsh out there and stuff's very open. When I was out there, I honestly didn't hear a lot of duck calling from anybody. But I know it's a lot of pass shooting while you're out there. But, to that same tune, I'd be as much hunting as you've done and having your own ammo company, I'd be willing to bet that you're pretty good on a duck call yourself. And you know a little bit about hunting. And that's all I was trying to say is just, these kids don't know that. They get out there and all they're thinking about doing is just taking these passing shots. They're not giving the birds time to work. If they'll work at all, they don't know anything but that passing shot.
Right. And, I know, I don't know, the guy may be listening and not commenting. I don't know. But I can't tell you how many guys that I've hunted with. And we can have this argument all day long if you want to have it. But I have taken hunting wood ducks to a new realm as far as calling them and decoying them. And I've actually had them circle me and drop down just like a mallard would. And we were out there. It was a couple of Thanksgivings ago, and I had a flock of a 6-pack that was literally circling us. I'd hit them on the corners with a wood duck call, and they would turn. We're running a jerk string, and we were trying to get them to literally put in because I wanted that on film. And one of the guys just jumped up and pass shot him. And it blew my mind. He said, well, that's the only way I know how to do it. And he didn't touch a feather. That's the bad thing. He didn't even touch a feather. So, it's hone your skills. So, any of the younger guys that are listening that may not have commented yet, if you're in there, even some of you older guys, hone your skills. I try to go to the range as much as possible. I am not the best shot in the world. I do have my days where, I could leave the gun in a gun case in the truck and kill my limit of ducks. I just have those days. And there's other days I could take out a machine shotgun and couldn't cut a feather. Hone your skills, guys. That's all we're saying is just hone your skills.
Yep, agreed.
No worries, Billy. Real quick, I know a lot of people are coming in. They've said hey to me. They've made comments. We're having a conversation in here, the three of us, and so if I don't catch your comment, I apologize. But right now, I'm saying hello to everybody. Don't get mad at me because we're having this little thing going on. So I had to get that out, and I don't want anybody to get all ticked off and, as my daddy would say, get all butt hurt. So,
RD, that marsh hunting is past shooting. So a lot of what I do when I get out west is marsh hunting, man. But the same thing still applies. And maybe it's just me, and then everybody I hunt with. I always call the shots. I might be a little too controlling at some point, but again, that's just I like the birds to work, and I like to get them down, and I get them down in the timber, and we get them down in the marsh, and that's again just the style of hunting I like to do. That's part of the process for me, why I enjoy it so much. If I'm in the timber, I'm going to put the birds down. If I'm in the marsh, I'm putting the birds down. But when you get to these areas, and to that same effect, you go hunt somewhere like Reelfoot Lake in Tennessee, or you go hunt somewhere like Catahoula Lake out in Louisiana. A lot of those guys aren't decoying birds either. It's a lot of pass shots, and it's a lot of different species. You got your mallards, your pintail. You got all your divers too. Catahoula is one of the best places in the country to kill canvasback later season. But those guys aren't decoying birds too, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that you've got blinds every 200 yards. So there's just no decoying birds. Once you get those birds within 50 yards, that's the only shot you're going to get, and you got to take it.
Yeah.
And that changes, but to that same tune, those guys are still working their call. They're still doing everything they can to get those birds to circle their blind as opposed to everybody else's. And it just, again, it's a skill set. It's the same thing as going into deer woods with the bow. You got to build upon those skills from shooting to the call to understanding your wind and how you need to set up, which is the beauty of hunting. I think if we all can kind of take a step back and like you've kind of alluded to, Bruce, and in one of your answers earlier, the kind of romanization of nothing but limits with pile pictures and how everything's being harvested. It's hard to appreciate what the process is, but we all need to learn to love that process. And once we do that, hunting becomes a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
And the older you get, something my dad actually said to me today, we were talking, and the older you get, when you do go hunting, it's not about how many birds you shoot. It's not even necessarily how many birds that you see. It's about hunting with your friends and remembering. And he actually called it the ghost of Spalkerberry, where he was talking to other guys about duck hunting in Spalkerberry, and they were all sitting there and just having these memories come back to them. So duck hunting is just not about piles. It is so much more.
Yeah.
It's so much more. But in order to get someone to notice you, even in our world, you've got to have a handful of birds in your hand. And I keep coming back to this because we're all every one of us that are up on panel right now are content creators of one sort of another. And we've got to teach these kids. We've got to teach the new people, even some older people who are just getting into duck hunting.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing as a guy asked me today. Hey, can you give me some tips on training my dog? And I'm like, and this is a text message. And I'm like, dude, there's no way in God's green earth I could give you tips in a text message.
Yeah.
Other than be patient.
Yeah.
It's
kind of
get on a schedule. I mean, that's.
I don't know what the word for it is. I agree with what you say where I don't know if it's an age thing, about you being at a point in your hunting life where piles of birds isn't always what you need to call it a good hunt. But the other side of that is you take a new hunter 5 times and he never fires his gun, he's probably not coming back for a 6th. right? So, finding some balance. That new hunter has to have some success, because what's the point, right? I mean,
Right.
why go? I like biscuits in the blind too, but man, if I've been slogging out there for 5 days and haven't fired my gun, I'm kind of like, I kind of wonder what the point is. You have to get to that point. I mean, and I say easier said than done, but maybe getting somebody, like when my buddies were new, we started hunting around here, and it's not uncommon to not fire your gun. I mean, I guess that's duck hunting, but we took a trip. We did 2 days at Reelfoot Lake and 2 days in the Boot Hill of southeast Missouri. And first day, we had an average to maybe sub-average day on Reelfoot. We shot, 6 of us. We shot like 19 ducks, and that wasn't really a good day, for January in Reelfoot Lake, or maybe it was December. I don't remember. It might have been right after Christmas, either right before or right after Christmas. But for those guys hunting, where they had previously all of their duck hunting had only been in North Carolina, they were just like, I didn't know there were this many ducks in the world, right? We had big groups of ducks coming and landing in our decoys. So, I can say, well, you should take it. A new duck hunter should go on a guided trip. Well, a cheap guided trip's $2,000, right? So that's not, if you can, if somebody can, that'll help you get hooked. But I mean, finding ways, if you're taking a new person, finding ways to get them to shoot their gun, and at least somebody killing ducks, is gonna, I think, keep them coming back.
Well, that's the only thing we can do. I mean, we've got to take them. We got to take them. We got to take new hunters, and we got to teach them the right way. And whatever style you hunt, if you're a jump shooter or you're a pass shooter, you need to, or decoyer, putting ducks in the decoys, whether you're diver hunting or puddle duck hunting. They need to be taught the right way, and they also need to understand that you don't need to blow a duck call every 5 minutes.
Why not?
Case in point is one of my best trips I ever took by myself was to Alberta, and I had a 3-day hunt, there, and I was by myself with the guide. And we're setting the layout blinds, we're setting the decoys, and and I'm getting the layout blind brushed in, and I pull my bag out, I get a box of shells out, and I put my duck calls around my neck. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Duck calls, duck hunting, duck calls." He says, "No, I put them up." He said, "We don't need we don't use duck calls up here." And I'm like, "Why not?" And he, again, a style I have never done in Alberta, where they're raised. I mean, you got birds that are coming out of the eggs and they're walking over to you. Okay. So they won't respond. They will not respond to a duck call here. And he had to prove it to me, because I consider myself a fairly decent duck caller. And every time I hit the duck call, you watch them. No matter what you did, a soft quack, didn't matter. They just did this. You shut up, you put those calls down, and they went just like this. It was crazy. So, again, I learned something. Not every place you go, and a lot of times when I'm hunting a very heavy pressured area where I know people are hunting around me, I'll put out a very limited number of decoys and less than anybody else is doing, and I shut up. I don't say a word. I'll let them ducks, they'll come to you, because I learned this a long time ago, where a decoy had broke loose from us and floated down the slough a little bit, and then got hung up in some reeds, some grass, and it was 50 yards from us, where every duck in that slough was honed in on that one decoy, and they would go and light right beside it.
So it is it. Oh, go ahead.
So I mean, there's all kind of things that we can be teaching. The only duck hunts I can remember are the ones we killed ducks. All right, go away, Keith. But so there's so we have so many experiences, so much stuff that we can teach people, and I just I don't know if they don't want to hear it. They just don't want to hear it, or they just want to see ducks poofing in the sky. Once they're hit with a shot cam or what it is. I don't get what they want. What do they want?
You're talking about a new hunter or just a duck
New
hunter?
hunters, yeah, new hunters.
I think they want to shoot ducks, and I don't think that's an unreasonable desire. Hell, I want to shoot ducks. I mean, if I went out every day last season and didn't shoot any ducks, would I be busting my butt to improve the habitat for this season to the extent I am? I don't know. It's hard to say, right? I mean, I don't want to, I certainly don't want to sound elitist, because every freaking sport or activity I've been a part of has the elitists who look down at people that don't do it their approved way. I don't begrudge people that, their definition of a successful hunt is 6 dead ducks. I would be very, very happy to shoot a limit of ducks, right? So, we should accept the way everybody else wants to do it, as long as what they're doing is legal and ethical, right? Like the whole idea of water swatting. Do you water swat a duck that hasn't already been
legal? That's legal. It's not against the law.
You know what? And I heard a great argument for it, because I think it's the same guy, same podcast that was talking about how he limits himself if he can't identify the ducks. We all talk about, I mean, we haven't said it, but in my opinion, 70 yards for the average duck hunter is not an ethical shot. You probably shouldn't take it, because you can't reliably make that shot. Yes, some people can. Most people can't, right? And this guy was talking to a non-hunter, and they said, well, no, we only shoot him in the sky because that's sporting. And this person, I think it was a woman, she said, well, isn't them sitting on the water the most ethical shot there is? Because you're almost guaranteed to hit it. And the guy stopped and thought, and I stopped and thought, and I said, that's a very good point. And if you can land ducks, I think you can fairly say that you met the fair chase standard there.
Yeah, absolutely.
My dad would tell stories, and I've done it a couple of times in my lifetime, but my dad, they would call ducks, land them, jump them, call them back, and shoot them. Now, again, that's when we had a lot of ducks. But I mean, what have you done? If you put a duck on the water, you have completely 100% fooled him, and you have done your job, whether it's with calling or just your decoy placement.
I mean,
in my opinion, fair game. Yeah, I'm taking him out. And I shoot over heyday decoys, and they don't sink, and they can take a number 5 bismuth easy, and I ain't worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit it. If it's 1, 2, 3 ducks and I put them on the water, they're going to get clipped on the water. Now, if it's a group of 10, it's a different story. I let them start working their way down, and I start from the top and work all the way down to the birds lowest to the water. That's if I'm getting greedy and I want to get 3 birds out of the same group. But if it's a few birds and I put them on the water, they're getting hit on the water.
It's not my preferred. I think it's just more fun. I'd much rather prefer to shoot them in the air, but yeah, I've done it. I mean, obviously with cripples, but I mean, and like I said, I mean, if you want to make the argument, it's the most ethical shot you can take at a duck. That's a perspective I hadn't heard before.
The only thing I can tell you about water swatting is wait till they stop.
Yeah.
Wait till they stop swimming and then take the shot. Because why do you want to shoot at another moving target is beyond me. So
that's true. That's a good point.
Go ahead. Wait for him to stop and then take him out. I know Ron's saying thumbs down, and again, that is an individual thing. What people will do, or what they
And
My ethics, I think I have pretty high ethics when it comes to duck hunting. I don't like hunting in the afternoon. I want to give those ducks a rest. So I'll do my part by not hunting. Now, have I hunted in the afternoons? Yeah. Have I hunted all day? Yeah, from dawn to dusk. But for the most part, it has nothing to do with I need to get home and do honeydews or I need to for the marital bliss. My wife is good enough to understand that when I go duck hunting, I'm going duck hunting, and if there's things to do, I'll come home and get it done just because there's something to do. But I don't hunt, and I don't hunt over corn ponds. Yeah, just the thing I don't do. Not telling people they can't. I just saying I don't.
You mean flooded corn or baited corn?
Yeah, flooded corn.
Okay, gotcha.
Flooded.
10-4.
There's nothing wrong with baiting corn.
About to say if the big money guys can do it, why can't the little guy, right? But no, I'm with you.
That's right. Hey, rich guys plant it, poor guys pour it.
That's right. But Ron said it. Everyone's different. Bruce mentioned it. If it's ethical, it's legal. And
yep.
I don't know that we can disagree with much of anything. It's all right. It's all the right answer.
Yeah, we got everybody's different, and that's okay, right? And God, we live in such a world today where that is not how most people think, right? If you don't think like I do, you're some kind of an ism or phobe, right? Not to go too far off the rail here, but yeah, I mean, but I wondered how many of those folks, going back to the mentor thing, just don't know what an ethical shot is. I mean, I wouldn't have if my dad didn't teach me.
Yeah, they don't. And it go even back to the identifying birds thing. I think about, like you said it, Bruce, we talked about in the beginning, it's very hard to identify birds at the beginning of legal light, right? When it's still dark. But, at the same time, it makes me think back to this one moment. I think it was 2017, maybe 2016. We were hunting a lake in Mississippi. And that's one thing we used to do all the time. We'd hunt the Oxbow lakes. As the Mississippi River came up, the water spread into these trees. That's what we did. Mm-hmm. And we were hunting the lake just on the timber line because we were targeting the bluebill at the time. We wanted to shoot the divers that were rafted up in the middle of the lake. And it was right at shooting light. It was still very dark. We had cloud cover, but I could see the silhouettes of ducks swimming in. And I knew off of the head shape that they were bluebill because they have a very distinctive head shape when it comes to the back hump of their head and the way that bill curves. And my dad, who is the one that took me hunting, who's been hunting longer than me, he didn't want me to harvest it because I was going to water spot this bird 100%. I knew it was a bluebill. I was going to take the bird. And, he didn't want me to take it because he didn't think it was a bluebill. He didn't know what it was, right? But, the type of hunting I've done, which was a lot more than him, he never hunted the saltwater. And that's something I did a lot around here in coastal South Carolina. I'd seen that silhouette and I've seen the bluebill and the different head shapes. And, I've examined that and I knew what it was. And I think what it just comes down to is just that experience. You have to have the experience in the hole, holding the birds in your hand. And it's the same thing with everything we do in life, right? Like you can teach a heavy equipment operator in school how to run a dozer, but he's not going to learn until he puts his behind in the seat. Mm-hmm. It's the experience.
Yeah. And it does come down to experience. It's, a wood duck and the puny little game farm mallards that we, for the most part, have around here aren't a lot different in size. Mallard's still bigger, but it's not like the true, wild native mallard that wasn't released or wasn't this descendant of released birds that we have so many of here. But especially when they're coming in, a mallard does this and he might kick over like this a little bit, in the dark. All you're seeing is body and wings coming in, and a wood duck comes in and he's doing this the whole freaking time, right? Yep. It takes a lot of times of seeing that because you're talking seconds that you have to do that, and you've got to see it a bunch before, now, I mean, I can see it in my mind's eye, right? The difference between wood ducks coming in when they're just silhouettes and the difference between mallards, and even the shape on the wing, right? When they're flying at profile.
Wood ducks, head down and broad tails.
Yeah, the big broad tail gives it away when they're coming at you too.
And that whistle that you hear them screaming before they come. That's pretty a good indicator, right?
Yeah, that does help. Yeah, I was out at my hole today, and I had I'll probably push the video out Wednesday. I didn't get them on camera, but I had 8 mallards fly over me today when I was out right in front of my blind, and I heard them before I saw them. They were doing their little clucking spacing call, and I just turned and looked, and they were maybe 60 yards away from me flying down the creek, about 8 of them. So yeah, wood ducks do help you out. First light, they're going to let you know they're coming most of the time.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. All right, let's see here. So what are we doing? Are we doing it? Bruce, I know what you're doing. For those of y'all that don't follow Bruce on his channel, he's been doing a lot of videos on planting his private land and rice. He's got a really great rice crop that's come up. Every time I see it, I want to walk out there with a pot and a stove and cook up some of that rice because it looks really good. Are you building blinds, brushing blinds? Are you getting ready for the season? Or is it the September doves have got you? What are we doing?
Well, I'm not doing. I went opening day of dove season, never fired a shot. I think I saw five birds. So not doing much of that. They just the farmer that leases the cropland switched to sweet potatoes. Surprisingly enough, a dove won't eat a sweet potato. So it's been soybeans every year since the dawn of time. But so right now I am, but mostly just watching the calendar and waiting. I go out there about once a week. I went out today. I just posted a video right before I got on here, and I got rice coming out of my ears. So it's looking good. I'm probably not going to build a blind in that spot because I built a blind last year and realized after the season started, I probably should have put it in a different location. So I'm not going to build any new blinds. I'm not brushing them in yet. I'll wait until October to rebrush that blind. Right before the leaves start to fall, I'll cut down a couple of little water maples that are just everywhere out there and cut some branches off of them. Haven't pulled my gear out yet. I'll wait a little while before I start pulling decoys out to get them ready. Mostly it's just waiting. I was out there, and I mentioned it in the video today. I had 3 wood ducks fly over me when I was driving down the road. I drive past a big swamp to get there. 3 wood ducks flew over the road. I got there. I jumped some out of the creek. And then while I was standing in front of my blind, I saw those 8 mallards. So I'm pretty amped up right now. But it really is just waiting. There's nothing else I can do now. Maybe fine-tune some water control structures. But that's about it.
Real quick, Ron's asking a question. How long will rice stay firm in the water compared to millet? All day, every day, 365 days, forever. So it is supposed to be grown in water. So, yeah.
The rice I planted last year, that's why I use it. And one of the videos, I did a series of videos about different plantings and why I like rice so much is that like it only degrades by 8% after 90 days or something crazy like that. I planted rice last year, flooded it in October, I think, maybe November. And in February, when I was out there was still rice on the head. It was in the water. And that's what's growing out there now. It stayed underwater until April. Water came off of there in May, and it sprouted. And that's the rice I have in that. I didn't plant anything. So rice will stay viable a very long time. Millet, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it will degrade about 85% in the same time that rice will only degrade about 9%. So millets, it's quick and fast. Ducks love it, but it does not stay viable as long.
Okay. Right. Jonathan, same question. Now, those of y'all that don't follow Jonathan, he's got a small YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok. He also runs a podcast called Rewind Waterfowl, which we actually did a podcast last weekend. Me and him.
Check that out.
So if y'all don't follow Jonathan, please do. But Jonathan, same question. What are you doing to get ready? Have you started getting ready? Or are you always ready?
Yeah, so no, I started getting ready in July, and that's every year for me. That's whenever I start getting the fever. I just, you'll always have that random one day where you have a cool down, and as soon as I step outside and I smell that little bit of fresher, cooler air, a little less humid, it ignites it for me, and that's when I get started. So, I mean, I've got everything pretty much done and wrapped up. My bags are already packed for when we hit the road for our big trip in December. But so that's already good and ready to go. What I'm doing now mostly is just a lot of checking water levels for the public land that we go to. I don't worry about stuff like that for any private land that we hunt, but I'm constantly checking water levels. And, a lot of the videos I do is just trying to keep up to date with what the forecasts look like for temperature. So that's it right now. And, just trying to set up the podcast. I got a lot of really great guests coming along.
All right,
I don't
Artie.
know if I've talked to you about this yet, Matt, but I actually have Dennis Luzier and Billy Campbell from Dr. Duck is going to be on at the end of the month.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
So that's a big one that I'm getting ready for.
That is awesome, dude. And they are, I try not to emulate anybody that's got other channels. You just can't, sometimes you just can't help yourself. You have the same thought process, but I promise you, if I could find a character to hunt with me that had the same comedic value as Billy Campbell, I would give him my firstborn. I think Billy is, Dennis knows what he's doing by far, but Billy is the life of that show. He is the one, and please pass that on to him, because he's the one. When I go and watch their shows, I want to see what type of antics Billy's up to. I really do, because he is the guy. I've listened to several podcasts that they have, and where he's the only one talking the whole time. Dennis was out doing something else or couldn't be there, but Billy was there, and he's just a funny guy. I think he's great. But yeah, good for you, man. I can't wait till that comes out.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for that one big time. Those guys are, and they're also the equilibrium in this kind of crazy,
right,
kind of unethical. Maybe that's too harsh, but this unexperienced generation, right? These guys are the equilibrium. They're out there hunting the public land. You're not going to see Ducks Unlimited TV go to public land and try to get on some birds. And then also at the same time, they're inviting people to come hunt with them. They're not being super combative with people trying to. And yeah, those guys really are the equilibrium, and I appreciate everything that they do. I'm excited to have them on. So that episode is getting recorded the morning of Tuesday. I think the last Tuesday of the month. What is that? The 25th. So it should be Tuesday the 25th, and it'll be posted that same night. So yeah,
okay.
I'm really excited for that one.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's Rewind Waterfowl everywhere. You can find it on Spotify and Apple. That's mostly what I've been focused on. I made a TikTok just to kind of promote the podcast, and that's where everything is taken off for me. Is TikTok, and the podcast itself has grown a lot. This trip though, so. I spend a lot of time out west, and I've got a lot of states that I'm going to touch duck hunting. I'm going to be putting a lot of actual hunting content out on YouTube and Rumble. And that's kind of what that's going to grow into. But right now the focus for me is the podcast and just using other platforms like TikTok to promote it.
Cool. I need to get back on Rumble. I have a Rumble account, and I've posted a few things over there, but I really need to get back over there. And start posting more and more and more over there, because it just the more you can put, I guess, the more people see your stuff and whatnot. But I mean, I get confused sometimes between YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. It's like you put one video out and you're spending 8 hours between editing and trying to post it on different platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm already having that problem, right? Like I should be posting on Instagram and Facebook a lot more, and I just can't bring myself to do it. Like I'm I put these videos out on TikTok. They end up doing well, and that following has grown crazy in the 50 odd days that I've had it. So I kind of just have all my focus there, and then recording the podcast and putting those out.
Well,
but yeah, I
gotta ask somebody in the chat real quick. Becca, have you gotten to Arkansas yet? Or are you still in Texas? Number one. And number two, all it takes is an invite, and I'll be there to duck hunt. So just letting you know. All right. We'll wait till she responds on that one, but we'll keep going. I myself, I'm ready. Decoys are lined. These decoys are cleaned. Bags are packed. It's just I gotta do some work on the boat. Jonathan, I think before you came in, I went out to crank it up yesterday, and I've got it's either a line issue or a bubble issue, which will take an hour to fix everything. I just got to go get the stuff to do it and get it fixed so I can run the boat. Other than that, man, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
It's funny you say that. We put the boat in this past weekend just to go hit the river and do some looking, me and the old lady, and I put the boat in the water. It's a mud motor, so I always crank it up before I launch. I don't wait to get it in the water just to make sure everything's running right. That way, when I do launch the boat and head down the river, I don't want the problems to happen then. I want them to happen before we take off. And as soon as we put the boat in the water, park the truck, they're in the boat, the dog and the old lady get back to the boat, we go to take off, and it shuts off. And I had a fuel bulb issue myself, so I had to fix it right there at the boat ramp. It took 5 minutes, and then we were on the water. But yeah, it's little stuff like that. It's a blessing it's happened right now, right? That way it's not happening when you hit the road.
Yep, I just got to get like I said, I just got to go get the parts and fix it. But now you run a mud motor. Now on your boat, do you run standard 3/4 inch marine fuel line, or do you run a 1/4 inch black fuel line?
So I run the black fuel line.
If you ever had to replace the bubble, and where did you find it? Because I'm having a hard time locating a 1/4 inch bubble.
Yeah, so I've had to replace the bubble, and I always just get it from Amazon.
Okay.
I don't know about your neck of the woods, but here where I'm at, it's the next day we get it.
Okay. I may have to order one tomorrow or tonight. Quickly.
Yeah, and they're fairly cheap. That's one of the things I have in my extra bag that I keep in the boat. Extra fuel tank hookups, extra fuel line itself. I've been in I've been on the Mississippi River and had to replace fuel lines on my boat before.
Right.
Wow.
I keep extra fuel bulbs, keep extra fuel filter, oil filter, extra oil in there. It's just you live and you learn. When you've been on as many bad trips as I have, you kind of figure that out.
Hey, I have broken belts. I've broken belts on the Go Devil. I have one day the throttle cable broke, and I mean, where it connects. I don't know on your throttle cable, but I've got like a little bent part. It slides into the throttle itself.
Right.
It broke, and it usually has a little lead football right at the end, so it keeps everything from drawing up inside of each other. That is where it broke, on the back side of it. So I had to cut the plastic sheathing, pair of pliers, pull the cable, bend it, and I found an old spring in my toolbox. It was just a spring, and I connected it to it, put it on. I actually did a video on it, and while I was out there, now I could not go full throttle, but it got me back to the ramp. But I was on the Santee River when that happened. So I feel your pain, bro.
Yeah, I was on the Wando River hunting a few years ago, and I still remember this as the worst day duck hunting I've ever had. We got out there early on the Wando River. It started raining on us, freezing rain. It was super cold. We dropped 4 or 5 birds and had to chase every one of them down the river. So we were only able to get 3 birds back. And, we ended up losing a couple birds. They just made it away from us. But that's like, I think it was Greg that said it earlier with the scoters. You knock them down first and then you kill them. And that was, similar to what we had going on. And then on the way back up the river, and we're about 2 miles down the Wando, on the way back up the river, the throttle cable popped completely. So I had to take the cover off of the boat, and I had to use a screwdriver to twist the set screw for the idle level. And I was using that as my throttle to get back to the boat ramp. And then we get back to the boat ramp, and my buddy, this is his second time duck hunting, he didn't sign his federal duck stamp. So he got a ticket at the boat ramp. And that's what keeps you going back out there, right? Days like that.
That's right. That's right.
I actually don't remember this, but my dad told me. So like I mentioned, I grew up in Kentucky. I grew up on the Ohio River, not far from where it joins not too far where it joins the Mississippi. So if you've never seen where the Ohio and the Mississippi join, the Ohio is actually bigger. There it is. The Ohio River is actually bigger than the Mississippi when they meet. So it's a huge river with lots of barge traffic. And we almost died. We almost died one morning going across there. A barge was running down the river. We were in a 14-foot John boat, and a barge was running down there with no lights on. And my dad didn't see it till the very, very last second and turned and missed it. I must have been just down, huddled up, trying to stay warm somewhere. But it was almost a real bad. Me and him and his buddy. I mean, if we'd have hit that boat out there, if we'd have 14-foot boat and a barge, that's not a good outcome. So yeah, that's
last year. I was on Craig. If you're still here, Craig? What river was that we were on? I had to taking my boat and Craig's boat, and his boat broke down. He had two people in his boat. It was him and his brother, and it was me and my son in my boat. My son was driving, and I'm in a Go Devil, and we were literally pulling them back up the river. And it was pitch black dark, and the fishing boats were leaving, and they kicked up a huge wake. And they weren't going that fast, but it was just a huge wake. And I was at the front of the boat because my son told me to lay down across the boat, onto the bow. We needed more weight to keep it, because it was too much weight on the back end pulling this boat. And I mean, water was coming over the bow, over me. Oh, it was nasty.
Yeah,
it was nasty. Yeah, I think we've all had those kind of experiences, which is a reminder to everybody. If you're going to wear your waders in the boat, wear a belt, and always wear your life jacket. Always. If that boat's in motion, wear your life jacket. If you're going to wear waders in a boat, put a belt around you and tighten her up. My PSA. We get every year not just kids, but every year duck hunters die from drowning that could have been prevented because something bad happened. They said, "Oh no, I can get to my life jacket if I need it." No, you can't. I've been thrown out of a boat. You don't have time.
I haven't been thrown out. I've come close to falling out fishing several times down the bow, and we just had a guy 2 or 3 months ago right here on Falls Lake. I live just about 10 miles from Falls Lake, and some two boats collided, and one of the guys never came up, and he wasn't wearing a PFD. Yep. Yeah.
I guess Craig and his brother have already left for the night. If they did, I didn't see them leave. Any final thoughts on this? All right. Hold on before we get there. Jonathan, we've talked about this, so I'm going to go with Bruce first. What's your predictions for this year? Fall flight, your predictions.
Gosh, man, my predictions. I don't know if they're predictions so much as hopes and dreams. I think I'm going to shoot something other than a wood duck on in my spots this year. So far, we have it. Last year, 2 years ago, we were sitting there, and 5 minutes before shooting light, a pair just about took our hats off and landed in front of us, and then left before we could shoot. A pair of mallards. I saw a bunch of other ducks. I saw mallards, lots of mallards this season. I saw teal. I had ringnecks. I had everything. So my prediction is I'm going to shoot something other than a wood duck out of my spot this year. And fingers crossed. I think we're going to have a pretty good season. I don't know if they know what they're talking about, but people are calling for a colder winter. So, pushing weather down. When I saw a ton of ducks last year, it was right before that big freeze. Well, it was as the big freeze was blowing through right before Christmas last year.
Right.
I saw tons of ducks. So I think it's going to be a good season, and I'm going to shoot probably some mallards this year out of my rice hole.
Jonathan, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to put a caveat in it just because I know you. When is the cold weather coming? What month?
So the cold weather is going to – are we talking about here in South Carolina?
Yeah.
So the
when are we
cold
going to
weather
see
will be here. The cold weather will be here about Christmas. Everything from the Farmer's Almanac, everything we're seeing, the direct weather's doing, and this is across multiple weather models. And once those things start to all line up the way they are right now, that's always a good thing. It's looking like Christmas time, we're going to have a really cold Christmas. But I think here in South Carolina, I think our kind of money time frame is going to be that second and third week in January. I really do.
Okay. All right. And your predictions on ducks this year?
In South Carolina, I think it's going to be really good for the coast. Just the way everything is going to be locked up. I mean, it's an El Nino year, right? So you have that kind of southwestern track where it's going to come in and dip around the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to come right back up around the East Coast, and that creates a lot of those nor'easters. And so once that snow starts to fall inland on the northeastern side, it's going to push birds down the coast. So I think the coast from Virginia all the way down to Florida, it's just going to be awesome. I think we're going to see a lot of divers. I'm curious to see what the puddle ducks look like, just given the fact that we're going to have 4 mallards again on the Atlantic Flyway. So I'm curious to see what that kind of pressure has if they're going to make it down here. But I know the divers are going to be here, and I know the teal will be around. The green wings will do really well.
I hope you're right.
Okay.
I don't think we had a single accumulation of snow last year. And granted, we don't usually get a bunch anyway. But we didn't. There was one day, it was after the season actually, because I was visiting my folks, I think in February or March in Florida. My wife sent me some pictures. We got a dusting on the grass. So I hope you're right. And it will be interesting to see a prediction, if you will. The change to 4 mallards will have zero impact on anything other than maybe some people will shoot some more mallards. I recently listened to another Russell Ramsey podcast, and he was talking to a biologist who is on the Atlantic Flyway Council who makes the recommendations. And they say that, that he didn't exactly say that maybe we should have never gone to 2, but the numbers are such, and all the models that they have were fully in support of a 4 mallard season. So my prediction for that is that other than maybe some of us will get to shoot more than 2 mallards, I don't think it's gonna have any negative impact.
Okay. Just kind of curious what y'all thoughts are. I'm optimistic and pessimistic at the same time. Just knowing South Carolina and what has happened over the past 10 years. Just the terrible, terrible seasons we've had. I do hope that it does. I hope this cold weather does drive it's going to have to freeze things up. But the big thing is I don't think we have the food on the public areas to support a migration, and those ducks are going to get up and they're going to hit the private lands. And again, I can't fault the private landowners for none of this. They're I mean, Bruce, I know you're one, but I can't fault people for that. I mean, it's what they wanted. They got it, and that's what they wanted to do, and I'm all for it because the only reason we got ducks is because of them. I just don't think the public land hunter is going to see that big of an impact this year. I think your private landowners will see a better to really good season, and I think your public land hunters inland in South Carolina are going to see what they've been seeing because there's not enough food here for them. I think the coast. I think you're right, Jonathan. The coast will see more birds in the public areas, the open public areas. They'll see more birds. However, on the WMAs that are on the coast, there's only one that is managed. And I don't think those birds are going to stop, and they're going to keep going. So there's my, I hate to sound that way, guys. I just don't. That's why, unless somebody calls me and says they're here, get here now, I'll be headed to North Kakalaki. And so, Bruce, if you see that blue truck of mine coming sideways down a dirt road, flag me over, man.
I'm gonna follow you because you're going for the ducks.
So,
I don't know. Obviously Arkansas. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. They manage a lot of property for waterfowl, and North Carolina has a few impoundments, but I think they're all permit opportunities, which makes sense because somebody get effing shot if they were. People get so stupid. But I mean, beyond that, impoundments, I don't know. Well, we do have impoundments around Jordan Lake, but they're not planted. They're not moist soil, flooded timber, I guess. But they just flood them one year and don't the next, and that's it. But I don't know about South Carolina. It doesn't sound like it's much better, but I don't. Even the stuff that they do plant, doesn't look great. They will put some rice and mill it out in like near the blinds, but then they let it. One of the places I hunted last year was loaded up with Sesbania, which some people call coffee bean, which other than maybe some, thermal and vertical cover, there's no food value to it. And there were acres of it out there. And I've seen that with dove fields. I mean, it's
right.
They throw seed out and walk away and come back a year later and throw out more seed, I think. So, I don't know why. I don't even know whose ear to whisper in to even attempt to do something different. And everything takes money, right? I don't know what the question is, but the answer is money. So,
our state stamps went up this year, so and that's supposed to go to the to the WMAs, the waterfowl impoundments. That's where it's supposed to go to, but they don't have anybody to work it, and they just don't have the people to work the stuff. You got guys that have probably have the education, but can get paid on the private sector a whole lot more. I'm concerned. Really concerned for South Carolina and the direction that they seem to be going in with waterfowl hunting. There's just so much, and you're right. It's 100%. You got to have money. I just wish they should have been doing things 10 years ago instead of waiting. I would have accepted a increase in duck stamps prices 10 years ago a whole lot faster, and I'm accepting it now because I know that they haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear it again. Well, the COVID has kept us from being on a tractor alone, on a tractor with a cab on it, and they're by themselves. I don't want to hear that crap anymore. I'm just straight up. Because that's what we heard for 2 years. We can't do this because of COVID. What? You're by yourself on a tractor in a cab.
That was COVID was a great excuse. Everybody blamed COVID. Why is your girlfriend so ugly? Well, COVID,
COVID, yeah.
But I actually had a neighbor down the street just tell me earlier tonight he just tested positive, and they're talking about cranking that stuff out. We don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, I don't even know in North Carolina, other than buying a bunch of land and managing it somehow, I don't even know what we would do. We don't have these big expanses of river bottoms like they do in places like Arkansas, and we don't have the same kind of agriculture like you would up in the plains or even like the Sacramento Valley out in California. I don't even know. I mean, it comes down to, as well, I've said it, and right or wrong, disagree with me if you will. I think of the 4 flyways, we're in the worst one, right, as far as number of ducks. And then Ramsey Russell said this the other day. I mean, if you could look at a heat map of the country that was a representation of population, there is a ridiculous mass of humanity on the eastern seaboard, right? So I don't even.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at a comment.
Well, yeah, it's right. COVID was blamed for everything. So I don't even know what. I mean, it would just take millions upon millions of dollars. But it does go back to a point I made earlier: is that we're already a politically irrelevant number. So anything we can do to increase that number can only help us. But I mean, there are one of my hunting buddies. He was in. If anybody saw the video of me hunting the curtain blinds, he was a guy hunted with the first day. Played football for NC State. When he was here, there were places he talks about. He was killing ducks on NC State campus when he was going to school here, right? Places that are now shopping malls. He used to go duck hunting. So that's happening. So I hate to sound so pessimistic, but I don't know what we can do.
It's going to boil down. I mean, I think duck hunting it's going to boil down, especially on the East Coast, and in the Southeast. It's going to boil down to landowners.
It just becomes a rich man's sport. It's already like that now, and it's hard.
Right.
Like I was in a club a couple of years ago. I paid $2,500 to be in a club for a year. It was managed by a moron, and it had potential, but it was squandered. But you can't even find. I know a club where it's $80,000 just for your initiation fee, and then you have to pay yearly dues on top of that. Now, granted, they have 3 clubhouses and a staff that cooks for you and all that stuff. But I mean, an average run-of-the-mill duck club is $5,000 to $10,000 a year. That can't be the answer, right?
No.
North Dakota, granted, they have tons more land and tons more ducks and way fewer people, but they have their walk-in game lands. But in essence, I mean, people will put up signs around their field and say, "Hey, just walk in. It's private property, but you can walk in and hunt here. We don't dry field hunt here, so that that doesn't happen. But there's plenty of swamps, right? I don't know if we get traction for that. I asked a guy for permission not to hunt his land, but to walk across it to get to public land because I was tired of walking a mile up and down hills where I could have just parked in his lot that all he did was store heavy equipment and walk a few hundred yards to my hunting spot. And he said, I just can't. I let some guys do it and they tore stuff up and they trashed everywhere. So, I mean.
And even trying to find a piece of property to even lease. We looked at one last March, I believe it was February, March. 400 acres. It was right at 400, maybe no, 600 acres, right at 600 acres. It might have been just a little bit less. Huge potential for flooding. Actually, the layout of the land, it was a high road, and just looking at it, it appeared that it was a very old diked rice field. Very old. The trees had already grown up, but it looked like it had the structure, the diking structure. It was right beside a creek. It had a culvert pipe in one of the roads that was busted up and could have easily been dug out, a new pipe and a water control structure put in there very easily.
Right.
Probably would have taken no more than 3 hours to do it.
Right.
With the right equipment and a couple guys doing it. The guy wanted $5,000 for it.
Oh, you should have taken it. That's cheap.
And I looked at him, and he wanted us to. Oh no, wait, I ain't done yet. He wanted us to pull it. There was an old school bus that was on the property, and he wanted us to pull it out. Well, the only way we could have pulled it out is we would have had to chop it in half and then pull a wrecker into it,
right?
Just the way it was parked. All right, that wasn't. We couldn't. We can't do that. I mean, there's no way we could do it.
Sure.
There was an old shed that he wanted torn down, and he wouldn't. All right, so we said, okay, $5,000, and we'll do this stuff, but we want to know that we have this property for a few years, so we would like to keep it.
Yeah.
He said, no, I'm only doing it year by year.
Yeah.
And okay, so we're going to go there 1 year, give him $5,000, pull all this stuff out. Then he's going to go, oops, I'm not leasing it anymore.
Or I'm going to lease it to somebody else for $10,000.
I'm going to lease it to somebody else. And so we didn't have any recourse on that. And we just, that's what I ran into last year.
I was looking at, gaining permission or leasing or whatever. And I was friends with a guy who was friends with some farmers who owned thousands, or either owned or leased thousands of acres in good hunting areas that I had hunted and knew there were ducks in the area. And the trouble we run in around here with it, and this guy, this landowner summed it up pretty succinctly. He said, I've got guys I've known, because my friend told him I was willing to lease some properties from him, not that this guy needed my money, but it would have been some more money in his pocket. He said, I've got guys I've known my entire life waiting in line to hunt on my property. I can't give it to somebody else that I don't know when I know that they want to. And around here, it's
right.
It's your kind of typical, probably rural environment, right? Where they're in their family, and it's tough to get access to that kind of stuff. They either had bad experiences, or their cousin's sister's boyfriend is gonna hunt it or something like that. And that's fine. It's their land. They should do what they want to.
Jonathan, you got anything to add?
For the land
or anything?
As far as accessibility? Well, yeah, I mean, the clubs that I've looked at joining, I went and had conversations with a bunch of these guys, and I'm talking about like $30,000 a year to do these clubs, which is, I mean, when you're able to split it amongst 4 to 6 guys and you're blind,
sure,
it's not that bad, right? But then, I mean, you're only hunting Wednesdays and Saturdays, and they're all an hour and 15, 2 hours away from the house. And, for me, that's not a problem for me to do. I'm thankful to be able to work from home and do stuff like that. But for a lot of my friends to be able to make it out there on a Wednesday night, or a Tuesday night, that's not going to happen. So that's always a problem. And then, I mean, even just regular like land lease for hunting and purpose that just has a swamp on it, like West Vaco land or some of these forestry company lands. the price on those is just insane anymore. And
Right.
and then also like Bruce's story with his club, you got guys out here that want to do this, but they don't know how, and they're not willing to learn how, and they think the way they know how to do it is the best way to do it, and they're not going to listen to anybody else. And I'm not willing to throw money at that. So, I've got my access. I've got my access to my private land that I got now. Thankfully I live right on some that, I've got to hunt at this year. And then, my affiliation with the SCWA, I've got private land out there to hunt. But yeah, I had a farm. So I live on the rice fields now in Pimlico, and we're right on the water, and I like where we are, but I had a farm in Andrews off the Santee River. And I had my own little water hole there, impoundment. I dropped millet. I managed the land for everything that we had there, and but we sold the farm to come out here, and I wish we would have never done that. But
right. Okay.
And we've talked about it before, Matt. For me, I think us pretty soon we're going to head out west anyway, and get out of South Carolina.
Right. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours, which is my normal time limit. So I'm going to end this. But first of all, for those that do not follow Bruce at Foul Play Outdoors, Bruce, how can people get in touch with you as far as watching your channels and that kind of thing?
Well, it's foul. If you search for Foul Play Outdoors, you'll find me for sure. The shortcut is no spaces, Foul Play Outdoors 68. Somebody locked up Foul Play Outdoors 8 years ago and never used it again, so I can't have it. But you can find me there. And like I said, I just posted some videos today. So if you're going to check it out, please give me the subscribe. That's really kind of the main metric for growing your channel is the subscribe. So I'd love to have everybody. Love getting comments. I also have an email address for the site, which Ron has emailed me. And I got your email the other day, Ron, but I didn't catch it in time to reply. But actually, I think Ron left already. Anyway, foulplayoutdoors68@gmail. I've asked in the past, and love to do it again. Is somebody can send me their videos of their places or what they're doing. Cell phone video is great. Just hold it sideways so it displays properly. I would love to take some of those videos and with your little description of what you're doing and put them up. But yeah, come check me out. I would love to have more followers and have that exchange.
And Jonathan.
Yeah, so pretty much everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, here at YouTube at Rewind Waterfowl. A lot of my heavy content right now is on TikTok. Again, I've been pushing everything to promote the podcast there. The podcast, you can find it on Apple Podcast or Spotify at Rewind Waterfowl. A lot of good interviews coming up. Again, Dr. Duck, Billy Campbell, the fowl hunter. We've got some two-time Oklahoma State duck call champion TJ Fleetwood. Got a bunch of good stuff coming out there, and a lot of actual hunting content coming to YouTube as soon as big duck season kicks off. So
awesome. Well, guys, listen, I want to thank you each for coming on tonight. Just talk about the beginning of the waterfowl season, what you got plans. As I've told each and every one of you before, if you see me going live, you have an open spot on this panel. You are more than welcome to come up and let's talk some more ducks. I'm going to be kind of spotty here and there now that the season's starting, because going to North Carolina for a couple of days, coming back tired, wanting to go to bed, that kind of stuff. But we're going to be doing a lot of live streams, hopefully a lot better videos this year as far as, waterfowl content, because I'm going to be on the road. I'll be come October, the 1st of October, I'm headed to Virginia, and then come back, and then I've got the opener for the North Carolina inland, and then the North Carolina coastal. Wait a few days, and then it opens back up, and I'll be rolling back up, and just flat out hunting. And hopefully that Bruce, we can get together one day and either share a blind or share a biscuit. Jonathan, we've already talked about this. We're going to try to work something out. And any of you other guys that are in the South Carolina, North Carolina area, I'm always looking for a place, always. And I make some hellacious great biscuits. So just give me a call. But anyway, guys, again, thank you so much for coming. Everybody in chat, I want to thank y'all again for coming in. Y'all are you're my base. You're why I'm here. So hope y'all have a great week. I do want to end this up tonight before we leave. 1 solid minute of silence to remember 9/11 and what we lost 22 years ago. So starting now, 1 minute. Thank you, guys. God bless each and every one of you. Y'all have a great week, and we will see y'all next time on Daddy Duck 365. Good night, everybody.
Thanks a lot,
care,
everybody.
everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.